One of the most important strategic issues facing independent Kazakhstan has always been the status of the Caspian Sea. The collapse of the Soviet Union created 4 new states with access to this large body of water, and therefore it was necessary to reach a consensus on the delimitation of maritime space. According to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the territorial waters of a state are considered a strip of sea at a distance of 12 nautical miles from its coastline. In addition, there is the concept of an exclusive economic zone, which is 200 nautical miles, or 370 4/10 kilometers from the coast. Within these limits, the state has the right to conduct exclusive economic activities. At times, this leads to serious conflicts. For example, as many as 6 countries, China, Vietnam, Taiwan, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, are fighting for the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea, because the possession of these almost lifeless pieces of land makes it possible to declare the waters around them an exclusive economic zone. The situation around the Caspian Sea was very difficult for similar reasons. There was a heated discussion even around its recognition as a sea, and the extension of the provisions of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea with its 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone. This would be a favorable outcome for Kazakhstan, but to legalize this principle, it was necessary to negotiate with other countries. Among them, Iran was opposed, arguing that the Caspian Sea is a lake and it should be divided equally. In this case, the Islamic Republic would have gotten 20% of the Caspian Sea. The seaside version would have granted Iran only 10%. From the very beginning, the Russian Federation proposed to each state to establish an exclusive economic zone within 10 miles of the coastline, and to introduce a regime for the general use of all types of resources beyond the borders of this strip. It was important for Kazakhstan to control the offshore shelf in order to be able to introduce its own development here, and therefore Russia's offer was seen as unattractive. It was at this moment that the first president, Nursultan Nazarbayev, played a key role in the negotiations. Thanks to the perseverance and determination of Nursultan Nazarbayev in the negotiations, Kazakhstan managed to defend its position. Otherwise, the economic history of the country could have developed in a completely different scenario. In 1994, our country proposed a draft convention on the status of the Caspian Sea, but at that time, the parties were not yet ready for relaxation and negotiation. Under the current circumstances, the Kazakh authorities had to maneuver, since the preservation of the status quo was threatened by the plan to extract minerals from the bottom of the Caspian Sea, so Nursultan Nazarbayev decided to negotiate with each state separately. As a result, in 1998, after lengthy negotiations between the Kazakh leader and the Russian president, an agreement was signed on the delimitation of the bottom of the northern part of the Caspian Sea. This document mainly regulated the issues of subsurface use. It is important to emphasize that according to the treaty, the division of the seafloor was carried out according to the principle in the median line. Our country has insisted on this formula from the very beginning. In 2001, a similar agreement was signed with Azerbaijan. 2 years later, in Almaty, the 3 northern Caspian states agreed to determine the junction point of the demarcation line in adjacent areas. Thus, the issue of the delimitation of the northern Caspian Sea was resolved. As a result, the tactics of the Kazakh leadership were fully justified. Now our country could independently develop oil and gas fields on its own part of the sea. Nevertheless, Kazakhstan did not abandon attempts to adopt a collective agreement. As a result, in 2002, the first summit of the heads of the Caspian states was held in Ashgabat, and the next such meeting was held in 2007 in Tehran. Systematically, the parties approached a common solution. A real breakthrough was made during the 4th meeting of the leaders of the countries in Astrakhan in 2014. The Caspian states have made significant progress in the preparation of a convention on the legal status of the sea. At the same time, it was decided to hold the next and 5th summit in Kazakhstan. It was here in 2018, in the city of Aktau, that a historic moment occurred in the presence of Nursultan Nazarbayev, Ilham Aliyev, Hassan Rouhani, Vladimir Putin, and Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov.
Конвенция – это основной всеобъемлющий документ. В ней определяются и регулируются права и обязательства сторон в отношении Каспийского моря, включая его воды, дно, недра, природные ресурсы и воздушные пространства. Договор включает в себя вопросы, связанные с разграничением национальных зон юрисдикции и суверенитета, осуществлением прав на недропользование, транзитом и транспортировкой, прокладкой подводных трубопроводов, кабелей, охраной природной среды, биологических ресурсов Каспийского моря и другие вопросы.
All 5 states officially adopted the long-awaited Convention on the Status of the Caspian Sea. Thus, an end was put to the long negotiations on the delimitation of the reservoir. In hindsight, it must be said that it was the decisive actions of Nursultan Nazarbayev that predetermined the fate of the Caspian Convention. His extraordinary decision to negotiate with each party separately eventually pushed all countries to collective negotiations. Thanks to this policy, our country has been able to independently develop the oil and gas industry and build a thriving economy on which a politically strong and stable state is based.